Welcome to Land of the Bible. I'm David Sussman. Join us today as we explore more of the land of the Bible.
G'day, I'm Paul. Welcome to Park Timna. We are sitting about 30 minutes north of the southern city of Eilat in the southern region of the Negev Desert, the Arava. Here, we're going to explore prehistoric formations, ancient civilizations, the oldest copper mine in the world, and discuss how even King David and Solomon had their foothold right here in the outback of the Holy Land. Timna Park and this whole region is a fascinating geological story. It's not about the people we're talking about, it's about the park itself. We're talking volcanoes, igneous rock, sedimentary rock. We're talking when a massive ocean called the Tethys Ocean, one of the biggest oceans in history of the Earth, covered this entire region. That brought us what is today the sandstone that we see around us, the bellowing of the earth to bring us volcanoes and the igneous rock of Mount Timna itself, and the layer upon layer upon layer of the earth, building blocks, the crust of the earth being lifted up through tectonic movements as the Syrian-African rift is being formed of what is today this entire region, the Jordan Valley, all the way down to Eilat, going into the Red Sea to Africa. And what we see around us is the birth pangs of this area being formed as we see it, and we can study it. And over time, we can appreciate the fact that we're so blessed to be able to see the very core of the earth as we walk through it. I'm standing now in front of what is probably one of the most famous rock formations here in Park Timna, clearly called Mushroom Rock. You can see why. It was formed of wind and rain and water like flash floods coming through this valley. It leaves us this really unique structure that is really cool for photos. You can pretend to hold it up, you know, like people do in Italy with the Tower of Pisa, or you can just come and enjoy it. A really good time to come and see it is at night when the park has installed lights and it becomes magical. There's very few places in this part of the country that you can feel so close to God. Behind me, you see Spiral Top, What is it called that way? Because if you look carefully at the rocks, it looks almost like a screw. So the locals named it Spiral Rock. Just one of the many unique geological formations that you'll find here right in Timna Park. The other most famous geological formation that we see here in Timna Park is right behind me, and it was called Solomon's Pillars. It was named after King Solomon himself, and the tradition that this place was where he had his copper mines. It's such an awe-inspiring geological formation that many people come here not just for the evening and the walk through to see the hieroglyphics in the middle, but also concerts, events, and shows happen right here at the very base. This is the backdrop to some of the best concerts in Israel in the summer period. Right here, standing in between two of the pillars of Solomon, we see the actual evidence of millions of years of erosion. We see what the wind has created. We see the sediment lines from the Tethys Ocean that eventually evaporated and disappeared to create the oceans that we know today. This is awe-inspiring.
Imagine walking where Jesus walked, where faith comes to life. Feel the Bible story unfold around you, from the green Galilee to Jerusalem's ancient streets. Experience the serene and welcoming land of the Bible, where miracles happen. Put your heart where His footsteps are. Visit Israel.
These mining shafts, this is just one of thousands of them discovered here in Timna. Are kind of cool if you ask me. We're talking about thousands of years ago with metal objects carving through sandstone to reach the copper, raw copper that was in these rocks. Once they came down, they also had to go across. And this is just one more example. To think that this all happened thousands of years ago with ancient technology. Timna became such an integral site in ancient history. You see, we're talking about the Chalcolithic period. Chalcolithic literally means the time of copper. Right here in this rock, and it's a heavy rock for such a small thing, you can see the green copper ore right through it. When the Egyptians realized that they could extract that, it changed everything. Initially, they just used what they could find, stone tools, wood, to gather the ore. But when they realized that they could actually smelt it, refine it, shape it, use it, everything changed. This is high-tech of ancient times. We now have copper tools. With those tools, they realized they could dig deeper, and they started to dig mines to get to the ore itself within the rocks. This, folks, is where we're at. Over 8,000 mines, over thousands of years of mining have been found right here in Timna Park. Let's go check out one of those mines now. And remember, this is the beginning of the change of the human race. You guys ready? Let's go explore some mines. Now that we're here inside of the mines, everywhere we look around, we can see the evidence of metal tools being used. Every direction you look, you can see chisel marks on the ceiling, on the walls, everywhere. This is our evidence of the high-tech advancement of the Egyptian society in ancient times. This changes everything because with the metal, they dug down vertically into these shafts that they created, more and more. Why so deep? Because the deeper they went, the more seams they found. What seams? The horizontal seams of the raw copper ore in the rocks, just like the one I'm sitting next to. Even behind me, you see another one. Once they found those horizontal seams, they continued with their tools to now dig horizontal shafts, which then connected the vertical shafts. There are thousands upon thousands. In fact, there are over 8,000 different mine shafts that have been discovered just here in Timna. What does that show us? Very easily, that the industry was massive. There must have been tens of thousands of slaves working here. They were probably very small people too. Look at the size of the shaft behind me. I can't fit into that. Most people today won't be able to fit into that. This is a sign that they were slaves, barely being fed, the minimal nourishment to keep them alive, to keep them working. Why? To enrich the Egyptian empire, which then led the ancient world in high tech, in trade, commerce, and everything that we hear about of the ancient Egyptian dynasties. If you were standing where I'm standing 3,000 years ago, the smell would have been atrocious because I'm in the heart of the industrial area. You see, once the copper ore had been mined from the shafts, this is where it was brought to these processing plants. These camps would smelt the copper down to remove the impurities. And it was not an easy task because you needed a flame and a furnace of 1,200 degrees centigrade. That's like 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit. And that temperature had to be maintained through the entire process. Imagine working 3 to 6 hours on these billows in the boiling hot of the Arava heat. 40, 45 degrees centigrade temperature, non-stop 3 to 6 hour shifts. They would do this how? Very simply. They took the acacia trees, cut them down to burn them, and then that charcoal would give them the heat they needed to maintain the furnace temperature, to finally get the slag and the copper, which would be put into cakes, shipped back to Egypt, which then would be decided by the pharaohs if they were going to make jewelry, tools, weapons, temple equipment, whatever they needed. But here is where they got the copper from. And I need you to try and imagine hundreds and hundreds of workers sitting here in this heat, melting and smelting and shaping. It's not an easy job. Once this very energetic and tedious process of smelting down the copper ore to get the pure copper out of it was completed, what were they left with? Huge copper cakes. That's right. The shape of the bottom of the furnace provided us with these shaped cakes. Now, this is now pure copper. I've got what I'm looking for, but this is bulky. This is really, really difficult to transport, and it's heavy. So then what they did was melt down the pure copper into ingot shapes, and then they were able to transport it. This was the base of their trade all throughout the ancient Levant area and ancient civilizations. And this is why the Egyptians were so successful, because they were the first people to master metallurgy and trade throughout the region. And this is where it all happened, right here in Timna Park. These petroglyphs give us just a small look into ancient civilizations that used Timna for industry and trade. We know for a fact that the Egyptians were here. There's plenty of archaeological evidence to show us their existence. But what happened when they moved away as the Egyptian Empire, the dynasties of Egypt started to collapse? Well, the Midianites came in. Who were these Midianites that we speak about? Well, that's where we go back to our Bible. And we can read in the book of Shmot, which is Exodus, the book of Bamidbar, which is Numbers, right up to the book of Shoftim, which is Judges, and the conquest of the land of Israel. We read about the Midianites. Now, they're not somebody to ignore, because let's not forget, Moshe Rabbeinu himself married a Midianite woman, Zipporah, the daughter of Yitro. This is very significant because she was not part of the Jewish people or the Israelites of that time. We know that this meant this site continued with the trade routes and ancient civilization thriving through this harsh climate. But it doesn't end there. It continues on. We learn about the Nabateans and the ancient spice route also using this area and also using the copper mines. We also learn that during the 6th and 7th and 8th century, in the early Muslim period when they did the conquest of the Holy Land, they also used these mines for copper and making tools and utensils. It still doesn't end there. We go all the way to the modern state of Israel with Ben-Gurion as prime minister, who once again tried to rejuvenate and revive the copper mining industry here in Timna. However, that ended just as quick as it started. It was not a productive venture, and therefore copper mining ended here in Timna around the 1950s. Right behind me, we're looking at what's called petroglyphs. The difference between a hieroglyph and a petroglyph is that the petroglyphs are carved literally into the rock. Hieroglyphs are painted on. Think like a fresco in Roman times. However, we're going back many thousands of years before the Romans. We're looking at ancient civilization giving us their history. What's the history that we see? History of hunting, history of how they had their lives and how important their deities and their hunting rituals were. You see, we're looking at a little glimpse of what life was like thousands of years ago, and this is their message to us today. Behind me is an ancient shrine. Originally, the Egyptians built this shrine for their goddess of mining, Hathor, or also pronounced Hathor. Their goddess was given a special place. They would pray to the goddess of Hathor, hoping that they would get a good mine out of the copper. Behind me, you see a niche hewn out of the rock. That was where the statue of Hathor was. Here they had a 4x4 meter temple. As they continued to develop the area and eventually leave the area around the 12th century BCE, the Midianites took over. The Midianites continued to use it as a tent shrine for a little bit longer. We know that because here they found Midianite pottery, they found a copper snake, and other copper utensils that were used and continued to be used by the Midianites as a shrine.
I will bless those who bless you, God promised Abraham. Embrace this covenant by connecting with the people of Israel. From Jerusalem's stones to Galilee's shores, experience living faith through their traditions and hospitality. Your journey is more than visiting biblical sites. It's about hearts that welcome your friendship. Your presence matters. Discover Israel.
I'm here here now at the Visitor Center. Most of you will probably start here, but it's also a great way to take a little break from the heat. Definitely worth your time to come check out the exhibits. They have multimedia experience that you should definitely take the time to see. It's only about 10-15 minutes. But what is the most important thing here that I'm going to show you? Not just the copper tools or the awesome the geological exhibition here explaining what the rocks are, but what is in this little room behind me. This is where they found the Argaman material, the royal purple of King Solomon. Why do I say that? Because it was dated to 1000 BCE, the exact time that King Solomon is here. It changes the whole story. And here in the visitor center, it's displayed right there in this little room behind me. Make sure you see that. Right now, what we're going to do is take a moment to speak to the manager of the entire park, Sagi Raz, and he's going to explain to us a little bit more about the flora, the fauna, the projects, and what they're doing to preserve not just the nature, the ecology, but also the site and the archaeology and the tourist attraction that is Timna Park.
Hi, welcome to Timna Park. My name is Sagi Raz. I'm the Timna Park manager. I live in Eilat with my family, and we enjoy this piece of desert as a piece of nature. I think that everyone who works here has a special connection to this site because of its uniqueness. And this is something that we want to share with everyone who comes over here. We know that maybe most of our visitors or all of our visitors are coming from very far away. Of course, tourists that come from abroad. Once they come over here, our policy and my state as a manager is to welcome each and every one and to host each and every one as if it was the tent of Abraham. Just looking around and walking in the desert is filling your spirit and your mind and gives you a peaceful mind. We have a moment of silence that we ask all our visitors to close their eyes, to get the desert inside themselves and to feel the spirit of the desert here in Timna. It's very unique. When you are below the Solomon pillars or the mushroom or the spiral here and all the other sites and the arches and all the other sites here around Timna, or when you climb the Timna mountain and you see the whole Timna valley from above, then you get to understand the uniqueness of this place. Usually in archaeology we found rigid things like bones, like stones, like coins that tells us the stories from thousands of years ago. Here in Timna we found Professor Erez Ben Yosef 5 years ago, found on the Slaves Hill next to Solomon Pillars. He found something very unique. He found a cloth, a textile. When he made the specific test to date this textile, he found that it was 3,000 years ago. Timna brings an adventure to our visitors, either if it is hiking, climbing. We have 130 climbing trails here, biking, accommodation, story, kids, families, tabernacle, even praying. We have prayers, special prayers here in Solomon Pillars. So Timna lives in a lot of assets to the tourism in Israel, and it is a tourism magnet that we believe that each and everyone can enjoy and have a special experience here. Thank you very much. We'll welcome you in Timna Park.
What a phenomenal day today has been. I feel blessed that I've had a chance to explore Timna Park with you, to show you some of the wonders, the sights, and reconnect us to our Bible, the land, and like I said, the outback of the Holy Land. But there's so much more to do here. When you're done exploring the park, come on over to the man-made lake, the Agam. Here there's a whole bunch of activities for the entire family. Whether you want to cool off in the sprinklers, grab a paddle boat and go around the lake, grab a bite to eat, a drink, or maybe you want to spend the night. You can camp, glamp, bring a caravan, whatever you want. There's something for everybody right here in Park Timna.
Next week on Land of the Bible, we head to the northernmost reaches of Israel at the base of Mount Hermon, where we find one of the most extraordinary natural wonders in the region, the banyas. Timna's rugged beauty hides secrets of the past, from ancient copper mines to towering rock formations. This desert landscape holds echoes of those who once lived and worked here, shaping the region's history. Thanks for being with us. Make sure to join us next time as we continue to connect you to the people, places, and land of the Bible.